Today I'm working on these Yamaha GT80 dirt bikes. Particularly, I'm trying to get this blue one running because that was kind of the deal. It was you fix the blue one, you can have the red one. So I've already pilfered some parts off the red one. I'm going to put the tank back on the blue one after I get done cleaning it. It's soaking right now. And some cleaner to get the rust out. But the blue one, with the red tank on it and a little bit of carb work, I got it to run, and run actually pretty well. But it's leaking oil really bad out of this left side. So I started getting it torn apart. You can see I've got the side covers off. The clutch cable goes down and actually pushes on that little rod right there. That's the sprocket output. That's the shifter. And so something on this side of the bike is leaking real bad. Behind the stator. The stator is separated, and so it's not getting any oil in it, but there's a lot puking out from something back here. One of these three things. I'm not exactly positive. Okay, so I found the problem, the location of the leak. It's coming out of that, not out of one of these seals. I thought it was coming out of one of these seals, but it's actually puking out of that slot right there. So, why? So the way it looks to me, it looks like it comes up through that big hole, and then it's supposed to travel through this little channel and drip down. It's probably designed that way. It's probably designed to be a self-oiling chain, now that I look at it. But for some reason, it's puking a whole lot more oil down there than it needs. I almost wonder if I overfilled the transmission, because that's why that's transmission oil. It's a two-stroke, so the oil isn't actually in the crankcase. But that's the transmission, has its own oil supply. And it's just standard transmission oil. But why is it puking out that much? Anyway, if you have any ideas for me, let me know in the comments. Any service manuals, links like that you guys might already know about. If anybody has one of these GT80 bikes, definitely let me know, and that'd be cool. I'll do some more Googling, do some research, and see what I can find on it. But, yeah, I found the leak. It's not a seal. That's good. I was afraid it was a seal I'd have to replace, but that would be a pain in the butt to do without separating the case halves. But good to know it's not a seal. It's just a automatic chain oiler that's a little haywire, pumping way too much oil. Okay, on the GT80 here, I think I figured it out. That puking out oil has slowed down a lot. I figured maybe it's just overfilled just a hair, and I think that's what it was, because now it just barely drips at all. So I think what it was, I think it's the automatic chain oiler doing its job. I think I overfilled the transmission oil a little bit, and it just pukes out whatever's overfilled. And then once it's running properly, then it just drips just a little tiny bit onto the chain. Anyway, so anybody else who has a similar issue, there you go. That's what you need to do. You just need to make sure that it's got the right amount of oil, not too much oil. And then I'm sure you probably need to top off that chain case, that transmission oil, every once in a while, because it is going to drip just a little tiny bit onto the chain all the time. So make sure you just barely top it off, and you should be just fine, I think. Another thing with these old bikes, any of these old Yamahas, Hondas, Suzukis, all of them had pretty notorious issue. They used Phillips head screws for all this crap. Everything on here used to be Phillips head screws. You can even still see some back here holding the case halves together and junk. And it's like, really? These stupid little Phillips head screws, especially on something that comes off. This thing is the chain cover. The sprocket sits right behind there. You saw it earlier when I had it apart. And so you got to take it off to do any maintenance. You got to take it off to change the chain. You got to take it off to change sprockets, stuff like that. And so after 40 years, those Phillips head screws were just demolished. The heads of them were just terrible. I had a couple of them were missing. A couple of them looked like that. So this is one of the few that magically came out somewhat easily with the drill. The rest, I had to do this too. I had to drill them out with a left-handed drill bit and snap them off and twist them out with a pair of vice grips and stuff. So get yourself, if you're going to be doing anything on these kind of old bikes like this, jump on like eBay or something like that. Get yourself a couple packages of socket head cap screws. That's what they call these, socket head cap screws. They're Allen. You know, most people would call it an Allen screw, but they're called a socket head cap screw. And get some M6s and some M5s, and they're only like a couple bucks, like $2-3. Get them a few different lengths. These ones are, I think, 25 millimeters long. That's roughly an inch of threads. Inch is 25.4. So this is 25 millimeters, so almost an inch long. And that's going to be your most common, is about an inch long, some M6s, some M5s. Those are like your most common. I also replaced some up here. The previous owner, the current owner, whoever, whatever it was, they'd taken this thing off with the carburetor still attached to it. And that's your reed valve cover, basically. It goes from the carburetor to the reed valve. Well, it had those crappy little Phillips head screws in it too. And there's no room in here. There's no room. I mean, you take off the oil injection system, but you take that off and you still don't have any room. The airbox is right there, and it's rigid mounted to the frame. So there's no room in there for a screwdriver. If you had a stubby screwdriver, fine, but you can't push on a stubby screwdriver to keep it in the Phillips head. They're halfway stripped out already. They're junk. So go ahead and get yourself some of these on eBay or Amazon or whatever. Go ahead and get some 25 millimeters and 35 millimeter. You might have to grinder off one if it's just a little too long, something like that. But your standard sizes are going to be 25 millimeter, 35 millimeter, 45 millimeter, something like that. If I take one of these old ones and hold it up there, see, I mean, it might have been just a hair over 25, if I can get one to line up just right. See, I mean, it might have been 27 millimeters or something. It's not quite 30, but yeah. So you get yourself some 25 millimeter, and then they'll have Allen heads. You won't strip them out ever again. I mean, you really got to be screwing up to strip out an Allen head screw. Even for carburetors, I like to get the like M4s for the carburetors. Like this one, I put back on the Phillips head because they weren't too bad. Between the two bikes, I managed to salvage a couple of carburetor screws that were okay. And so I just slapped it back together. But on anything that's my own personal stuff, I go ahead and throw on the socket head cap screws. Okay, so we got the oiling issue solved. And I think this thing's ready to go for a little test drive, so... Oh yeah, first kick. This thing is awesome. Okay, so if you can imagine this is kind of the 1974 version of a pit bike. So I mean, like, an adult man can ride it, but my knees are almost touching the handlebars. And it's definitely like more suited to a 10 or 12-year-old, but we'll see what I can do here for damage wise. the brakes, and I'm definitely gonna fix the brakes, and then I'll try taking it somewhere I can rip on a little bit more. Okay, let's try this again now that the brakes are working. Oh, listen to that baby fire right up. All right.